Hello and welcome to AQBIS. Today we'll be talking about the transgender persons in India. Transgender as a community has been discriminated since times immemorial. There have been recent efforts to address their concerns and grievances, and we have taken several efforts to cater to their demands. So let's start with the legal provisions. So initially in 2014, the Supreme Court, in its Nalsa judgment, said that transgenders are to be considered as third genders in our society. So the provisions for recognizing third gender was granted by this Nalsa judgment. And then, to give force to it, in 2016, the government enacted the Transgender Persons Act, which was later amended in 2019. And it was to address discrimination against the transgenders. So let's see the progression of this act, how this act has evolved over the few years that it has been in place. Firstly, let's start with the definition. So it defined transgender as a person whose gender is not concurrent or it's not similar to the one that is assigned to them in birth. And before I progress forward, I want to talk about the pronouns that are to be used by transgenders. So they have a right of self-determination of their pronouns. So they may be called as they, he, she, or whatever they choose. Him, them, her. So these are the different forms of pronouns that we might use for transgenders. So since they and them are inclusive and far more inclusionary in their approach, so we are going to use they and them in our video today. Moving on, what all is included in this definition of transgenders? We have trans men, trans women. We have intersex variations. Intersex variations include neither male nor female, either male with female characteristics, or female with male characteristics. So the whole idea is we have to have gender fluidity. So this act has somewhere emphasized on having a gender fluidity concept, and they have also recognized the socio-cultural identities such as Hijra, Kinnars, Aravani and Jogta. So all these are existent practices in our society and they have existed since times immemorial. So the act is recognizing these provisions. So let's move on to their identity regulation. So initially when the act was brought into force, it did not have self-perceived gender identity in its totality. So there were issues with the act because the act had mandated that people who want to claim themselves as transgenders under the act, they had to go to the magistrate and get themselves approved or even physically examined. So this violated their rights to bodily integrity, and their rights to privacy. So later on, in somewhere around 2020, the government gave them rights to self-perceived gender identity, where they can just sign an affidavit and they do not need to give any proof of their gender to any magistrate. They will straight away be issued a certificate of gender by the district magistrate on an affidavit. And this certificate, once issued by the district magistrate, it will be inclusive of name change in all official documents and rights and entitlements under the act. After that, it also allows for surgery. So once you've got this transgender certificate or certificate of gender from the district magistrate, after that you can also undergo a sex interchange surgery, or you might go a hormonal replacement therapy, and still despite having becoming a male or a female, you will still continue to have rights and entitlements that would have been granted to you under the act if you were a transgender. So the status quo remains same even after a sex change operation. You might reject your claim to these entitlements, but you will be entitled to claiming them if you want to. Before we move forward, let me talk about Shikhandi. Shikhandi is a part of our ancient heritage, and he, she, them, they were a transgender who fought against the Kauravas in the Mahabharata. So Shikhandi was a recognized transgender of our culture, and this was used by the LGBTQ protesters, LGBTQIA plus protesters, to emphasize that transgender is not a new concept. It has been recognized in our culture since times immemorial. Moving forward, let's talk about the obligations on establishments and individuals for these transgenders. Firstly, there has to be compliance. You cannot discriminate on the grounds of gender. That is part of our constitution. So this act re-emphasizes on this aspect and says that we have to have compliance for transgender friendly policies in all establishments. We have to have designated personnel for addressing their grievances, and they have to have right to residence in the family household. You cannot oust transgender because they are a transgender. You cannot deny them household rights, and they have to exist as one family. Moving on, let me just highlight this Yogyakarta principles, because the Supreme Court in its Nalsa judgment and another very important judgment, that is Navtej Johar judgment. These are the two judgments in which the Supreme Court talked about the Yogyakarta principles. The Yogyakarta principles came in 2012. Yogyakarta is a town in Indonesia, and it talks about the rights of these transgender people. So we have to just keep that in mind, that there are principles in Yogyakarta which respect the rights and which talks about how the transgenders must be given all kinds of human rights. Transgender rights are equivalent to human rights, and they must enjoy equality in the society. So this is one of the principles, and this is kind of a guideline for all the state bodies or all the plans and policies that we make for the welfare of the transgender people. They have to be given social infrastructure where they have to have healthcare facilities, where they can also go for sex reassignment surgeries and hormonal replacement therapies. This has been given legal recognition now. There has to be comprehensive insurance schemes. You have to have these imbibed in your day-to-day workings. Apart from that, there is also a provision in the Act for sports and recreation for the transgender people. So the Act is very inclusive in its approach. How far it is inclusive, we'll talk about that in the subsequent slides. Moving on, the Act also established the National Council for Transgender Persons, and it had multi-stakeholder representations. So people from Niti Aayog, NCW, National Commission, Human Rights Commission, and community representatives were also there in this council, and they had advisory and monitoring roles for transgender welfare. And the Act also prescribed for a penalty. Just remember this figure, we'll talk about it in the next slide. 6 months to 2 years imprisonment for all the offenses, and also plus fine. So all the offenses against transgenders will be punished with 6 months to 2 years imprisonment or a fine, or both. So These were the offenses where the penalties were imposed. So then what are the issues with that? Firstly, sexual assaults upon cis women attracts a more stringent punishment. What does this imply? It implies discrimination. Because if a sexual assault is conducted against a woman, it has more stringent punishments and it has very stringent laws. But it is not the case for transgenders, because as we talked about, it was only 6 months to 2 years. Whereas in rape cases against women, we have life imprisonment. We have capital punishment. So that is one of the discriminatory feature in the act. Apart from that, there is no civil or criminal remedy as a guarantee. So even if a transgender has been subject to these things, there is no grievance redressal remedy in the act. Apart from that, there is a period of 1 year residence in the place where you want to get a certificate of gender under the act. But the other acts, such as Civil Marriages Act or Motor Vehicles Acts, these do not require such long periods. Other civil laws have just asked for civil marriages, we just need 3 months residence. For motor vehicles, we just need 6 months residence. Then why have a requirement of 1 year residence for getting a transgender sex certificate? Isn't it not discriminatory? Why can't we have reduced this period at par with all the other civil acts? It is just a certificate of gender. So this is another issue that is being talked about. Apart from that, even if the authority discloses the gender identity of the person or discloses the confidential information associated with the person who is approaching the magistrate, there is no explicit restriction or penalty for the authority. So this is also breaching the rights of privacy or the rights to their bodily integrity. Then we do not have a proper implementing authority which caters to the reservation policies, because the act has given reservation. But do we see reservation in our UPSC exams? Do we see any other kind of reservation in any other government exams? I don't think there are many. There are very few, and none that I am aware of. So that is the issue. That are the few issues associated with the act, that we do not have a proper implementing mechanism. So though we have established a lot, there is still a long way to go. There have been depictions of transgenders, and the media, the celebrities are doing fabulous jobs to bring representation to the community and eliminate the discrimination that exists in their society. But how far does the policy or the law reflect it? That is the matter of question. So what do we do? I will give you moot points. Start with your neighbor. So we should not have a discriminatory mindset. We have to not call out to people who do not concur with the gender norms of the society. We do not have to attach stereotypes to males, females, or transgender. Secondly, communicate. We have to communicate the issue to the people who are unaware. And with this, I would like to thank you for watching this video. Keep watching our videos.